What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast. I'm your host, Mikel. And you guys know I love having this podcast. I love interviewing people, but it's really different when you actually get to spend super quality time with the people that you are going to be interviewing prior to actually doing the interview. And I'm pretty picky about this podcast. And when I met this gentleman who I'm about to introduce you guys to, it was sort of by happenstance. It was me actually doing what I preach and teach, which is sending one message every day to somebody that you don't know, name dropping someone that you do. And the person I name dropped, we had a mutual connection to. She had just been on his podcast. And little did I know it would turn into a very budding friendship where there's so much ahead of the two of us together. But he's just an all around phenomenal human. And I can't wait till the day that we meet in person. I think it'll be a very special day. But I am so excited to officially introduce to you guys my new friend, my new great new friend, TJ Sweet, a keynote speaker, podcast host. And his specialty, something I love about him is, and he's even done it for me personally, just in the 3 or 4 long Zooms we've had up to this point, is he's really, really good at helping people remember the power of human connection. And I think, TJ, you and I are a perfect example of the power of human connection. So, TJ, welcome to the show.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for letting me be here with you and for sharing this time with your trusted audience. And I know, like you said, you were picky. And by that, I know you mean you value so much of the time of the people who listen and you take it very seriously. And I'm grateful to be considered and honored to be considered to be here. And obviously, yes, the power of human connections, how we got connected. And I'll say this too, your program and all the other things that you provide. Yes, I fell into it and your message, but I'll be honest, who you are, like when I clicked on your page, when I clicked on your profile, who you are drew me more to you than what you do. And so that's my one thing that I'll honor always is like that's what got us on the Zoom and that's what has us on multiple Zooms now,
Mhm.
disconnecting and chatting and pouring into each other. And so I just appreciate you doing what you do, and obviously now super grateful for this connection.
Well, I love it and I'm so excited. And when I tell all of you listening to this that there is so much in the future for TJ and I would be
Mm,
lying if I didn't say I hope a lot of it is together, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right? But we're
yeah.
actively seeking what is the next opportunity for us to do together. And I think that human connection through social especially is a big part of
Mm,
the conversation. And I think a lot of times, and I'd love for you, TJ, after you introduce yourself, I would love for you to speak to this. But when we look at social, we always think like, well, how deep could a friendship really go? I haven't met them in person. I'm just talking to them on social, or I'm talking to them in my DMs. But I think we're proof that a human connection can go so deep, even if we've never met in person, which I think in turn makes when you do meet someone in person just that much more special. But we can dig into that, and we certainly will. But TJ, will you tell my audience who are you and what do you do from your words, and just tell us a little bit of your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, TJ Sweet, I am a keynote speaker, author, and a podcast host. Michelle's coming on my podcast as well. She's going to light that stage on fire too. So really, what I do is I talk about how through my own lived experiences. So I was a healthcare leader for 22 years. So I had the great opportunity and great privilege to be in healthcare, then to lead teams, to build teams, but really to build connections with people that I still, even this morning, was messaging, teams that I used to work with. I had a nurse last week message me about a process improvement project and said, is there anything you can think of? And this is what I mean by human connection. It's not what can we do for each other, but how can we show up for each other?
Mm.
And that's what this connection is all about. So when we talk about social media and all these different things, I love to be able to tell a new story about something that a lot of people feel a certain way about. So a lot of people say social media is a negative thing. It's distant. It's creating distance from us. It's creating imposter syndrome. It's creating comparison, all these other things. Now, is it creating some of that? Sure, by choice, not by chance, but by choice. So socials is something that we have in our lives. How we use it is up to us. And so how you use it and all of you're doing is how can you create an impact in the world? I use social media to find people, more people that I have things in common with that I authentically care about. The same platform that somebody else is now thinking is the worst thing on the planet and it's creating all this division. I'm actually understanding now that social media is about the desire, the human desire to build a connection with someone else through common values, common beliefs, common things, common desires, common purpose. That's actually what brings us together. And so your algorithm on social media is a good reflection of who you're surrounding yourself with.
Mm.
Now, you can hit the search bar and find people like Michelle, or you can hit the search bar and find other things that don't align with who you want to be and all of that. But for us, whenever we talk about social media, it's where the people are, and it's how I want to authentically show up for them, not how do I get them to use social media to hire me. And that is a big gap. And I think we all know that. I think we can all tell by, like you said, the DMs or the
Oh yeah.
whatever it is, right? We know when somebody's trying to get something from us or when somebody's trying to build a connection with us. And then even when somebody builds a connection, we can also tell when they're trying to get the thing from us because they want to build a connection from us. So I've started to really look at social media differently and understand that while people are scrolling, what they're actually trying to do is relate. And so
Mm.
now my connection's through relation, not
So
through
good.
not through elevation, not through compliments, not through all that, but connection on social media is through relating to people. The World Cup happening right now, it's the same way. We all of a sudden watch soccer. Soccer's on every single day of the week. But all of a
Yep.
sudden we find something in common, and that's actually what's going to bring us closer together as humans is the things that we have in common, not the things that we don't.
I just had to write that down because that's so good. Like while people are scrolling, what they're really trying to do deep-seatedly is they're really just trying to find someone to relate to. Um, what a powerful sentence. We're good now. We can just end this recording. It's fine. But no, I think there's something more to your story though that I want you to dig into because when I first met you, one of the things we spent a long time talking about is your transition from a great corporate job, doing really
Mm.
well, to who you are now and what you are doing today. And that was a big decision for you. So I'd love for you to go backwards in time with us a little bit and just let people into sort of parts of that story that you're willing to share.
Yeah, of course. I'm a pretty open book. I just want to make sure that I add value, not just storytell. But so yeah, so I was a healthcare leader, and here's the facts. I loved getting to lead. I loved the teams. I loved the work. I loved the customers, the patients that we got to serve. There wasn't a lot of times in when we make these career changes, because I walked away from that. I walked away from a comfortable life of doing something that I loved to do this, to be speaking full time, to be making an impact in the way that I felt like I was called to, not just a way that I could, but a way that I was meant to,
Hmm.
which I had to understand the difference. And I had, and there was a chapter. So I'd been speaking for 10 years. I had a podcast for 7. So it's not like I just all of a sudden one day watched a webinar and decided I think I should do this for the rest of my life. I've been contemplating this duality in my life, a similar why, but two different hows, how to do things.
Hmm.
And I just really honestly sat there and thought, first of all, I'm very faith driven in kind of my decisions and all these things. It's really just kind of my support and my courage and bravery and where it really comes from. Joshua 1:9 is used to be my background on my phone. I'll tell that story on a different. It's not anymore. It's an 8-year-old picture of me, but understanding that I really need to be honest about what makes me feel like the most me, the truest version of me. And I had to stop and think about, okay, if I wanted to be a healthcare CEO, because that was going to be my plan, would I regret not being a speaker and doing everything I'm doing now? Or if I was a speaker, would I regret not going back to being the healthcare CEO? And that question, that reflection of honesty created the moment where I knew I couldn't walk away from making the impact that I'm making now and how I'm doing it now. I just knew. I felt like this is what I'm actually meant to be doing, and not just the skills that I acquired and like all these other things that came along with being a healthcare leader. I had all that, but really what I learned through that was how to connect to people. And for me, it was a moment to where I was just like, I need some sort of sign I need some sort of sign like, what do I do? I've been doing this duality for 10 years. I've had people in my healthcare career not give me opportunities to lead. I wasn't getting promoted anymore. I wasn't getting new opportunities anymore because they said, you're confusing. We see that you're writing books. We see that you're doing the podcast. We see your social media every day. You're
You're
confusing.
confusing.
You're confusing to the market. Now, I don't judge. I don't blame them for that because there aren't a lot of people trying to do both, right? And so they said I was confusing, of which really challenged me because I thought, man, I'm doing what every leader is doing. I'm just doing it in a very public way, but I was also doing it with inside the teams that I was working on. But they just said, we want somebody who wants to be a leader, not somebody who wants to do a podcast in the books and keynote speaking and coaching, which I had to really own and say, which one am I? Am I just the leader who's going to walk away from the other thing, or is there a place for both? And I'll be honest, I applied for a job, interviewed for a job. They said everything was fantastic, everything went really well. Now they could be telling me less truth, but they didn't select me. And I talked to the COO, and he said every single person here really enjoyed you, but we're looking for somebody who's just going to be the leader, which is
Just gonna
yeah.
be a leader.
Right, but which is okay, right? Like I
Yeah.
totally understand their perspective. But I mean, it was hard to like kind of be able to walk away from the thing that I love the most at the time of like being able to lead in cultures and building cultures and just investing in people. Every single person on all of the teams that I've had the chance to lead mean a lot to me individually, and not because of what they did for me, but like who they are as a person. And for me to walk away from that took courage and a lot of faith, truthfully, that I was doing what I was meant to be doing. And, gratitude came into my life when I was 30. My whole life kind of got shattered by a dog, if there's any dog people out there.
Oh,
Um,
lots.
yeah. Um, but I was living a life of the next job, the next promotion, the next success. And that's what I was prioritizing. And then gratitude kind of transformed my life with that dog story because she kind of gave me a moment to recognize what actually mattered the most. And uh, it's a very distinct moment when I got to share that time with her. That then, she kind of towards the end of her life, I started to treat her like the true blessing that she was in my life instead of the obligation. But that kind of opened my eyes and opened my heart to who I was as a person, like that who am I question. If you can really sit down and be honest about that, that's where you can really do some powerful work is who am I and how do I want to show up for the people in my life? And that dog taught me that I wasn't proud of the person that I was. I was living a life of regret and shame and hope and all these other things. But whenever it became a life of gratitude and purpose and connecting with people that I loved and showing up for people in a way that is meaningful and pouring into the teams that I was getting to lead, everything transformed like a caterpillar to butterfly. I can never go back to seeing the world the same way. And it started with that story. And, like I said, it was just a slow kind of realization slash discovery process, walking away from the corporate job
Mhm.
that I loved, going to now, whatever, like you said, the future is bright, but I know why I'm doing it and I know what I'm willing to give, but I also know what matters the most to me.
I mean, it's first of all, thank you for sharing all of that. And it's so humbling to listen to. And I think there's so many people listening to this or that will be listening to this that we suffer all of the same things, right? We're like, we want to be more successful. We want to do more. We want more for our families or we want more for ourselves or whatever that looks like. But, you and I have been talking offline about a book that I've recently started reading and part of it is so difficult to read because it's me staring at me. Like I am forced to stop and say like, "Hey, Michelle, what is the mirror telling me right now?" And this morning I read a section of that book that I shared with you and
Mm.
listening to everything that you're talking about, I feel like I'm sitting there with you. I feel like I'm sitting next to you on a park bench. We're having this conversation about who am I? Am I this or am I that? And I feel like, frankly, I'm sitting in that same which direction do I go because I love speaking, I love teaching, and I love coaching. But what I really want to do, and I know you share this sentiment, is we have an impact. We want to have an impact, right? We have a voice. We feel like God gave us a voice, and it's a matter of how do we create opportunity for ourselves to give the world that. And I'm a huge believer in, we're supposed to be fishers of men, which means that we're supposed to be going out into the world and creating disciples that will also fall in love with Jesus too. And I was sitting in church one Sunday, many, many Sundays ago, and I remember hearing the pastor say, everybody is called to discipleship in their own way, right? Like some people are called to be pastors, some people are called to lead small groups, or some people are called to, serve in the women's ministry, whatever that might look like for them. And I was sitting there listening to this, and I said to myself in church on a Sunday, I'm meant to speak because every time I do, when I talk about God, people tell me about their relationship or their stories. And I
Mm.
feel like I make people closer to God when I do that. So if we're supposed to leave this earth by creating fishers of men, then if we're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing to go do that, then the only person we get to be mad about or mad at is ourselves. Um, and I think God has given you a path now. I remember one of the very first stories I saw that you posted, which is one of the big reasons why I really wanted to reach out to you. And we'll get tactical here in a minute, but I remember you posting about your penny, and like
Mm.
every story, I swear, I was like, why is this guy posting about coins? Like, am I missing something? Um, and it was like dirty coins underneath a tire, or like on the
Mhm.
side of a road, like it was all rusted and gross, right? But there's something really beautiful about the story there. And I want to transition. First of all, I want you to tell that story briefly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I want you to transition into, okay, so I decided to leave healthcare. Now I'm going to go speak full time. And how do I get that business? Right? Like, what do you
Mm.
do to actually go land those opportunities for yourself? And if you want to get really tactical on like a day to day, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll tell the penny story.
So good.
So it started as so I'm sure most of you, you may or may not see pennies or coins from time to time. And truthfully, whenever I'd see a coin, I'd look at whether or not it was heads up or tails up, uh, until last summer. I was contemplating kind of my life, this question that I asked, that I just shared with you about who am I and what should I be doing? And I'd kind of been trying to like quiet my brain and quiet my heart and try to figure this out. And so I was sitting, or I was getting gas. It was last September-ish. I was getting gas, and it was sunrise. I'm a sunrise and sunset guy for sure, right? It just captivates me every single time. So I was getting gas, and I was the only person at the gas station, pulled in, to what is no longer a random pump. And I see the sunrise, and as I'm getting gas, I just stop and I just think like, okay, God, like I just need you to show me. And like he knows me well enough, like subtle's probably not going to do it. So I need you to show me that if I go be this speaker, that you have my back, that financially I could provide for myself and for the people that I love, and I want to give back. And he knows my heart well enough. And so I just sat there, I stood there behind my car, and I put my hands down by my side and just felt the sunrise and quiet. And it just got quiet. And I just said, I need you to show me that you have me. And then I opened my eyes and I looked down at my foot, and there was a penny. I didn't see the penny, obviously, before the sunrise. I didn't move. I didn't go looking I had no idea that it was going to be a penny. Now that obviously struck me of like, okay, like I got you, right? In the financial way, I got you. But they like it kind of resonated. It got my attention for sure. And then I decided, okay, like I'm going to resign. And the day that I actually resigned, which was not long after, uh, within an hour, I got 3 emails of people wanting me to come speak and get paid to come speak for their companies
Mhm.
within an hour of me resigning. So then I was like, all right, God, like I get it. So then I went to the grocery store a week later, stepped out of my car, penny. It's like, okay. But you know what I recognized the most is it wasn't just a penny. it was God's presence in my life. It was reassurance. It was go be you. You will figure this out. And then, but with me, but it was also, I stopped looking at the penny of how could I get something from it? I wasn't looking at it at heads and tails anymore. I was seeing something so much more. That struck me of like how fast I could just totally change my perspective of coins. And then I started to recognize how many people walk right by it. And so I did. I watched people walk by a coin that I saw as I was walking into the grocery store another time, and people were just walking right by it. And then I recognized people think it's just a penny.
Yeah, that's not worth much.
So then I recognized the shift in myself. The God was saying is how you treat the few is how you're going to treat the many. I've said that so many times, but now I get to recognize what that means of how I treat the few is how I'm going to treat the many. So how I treat the pennies, how I'm going to treat the millions or whatever the thing is, right?
Hmm.
I now have a jar. And if you follow me on social media, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to deal with it. And the reason why I post it isn't look at me getting a coin. It's what are you paying attention to? What are you looking for? What signs do you need? It's like helping people because now I get people sending me pictures of pennies and they're like, I needed it. Right. And so like there's so much more behind this. So there's a book that I'm writing called Parking Lot Pennies. And it's about that message about what we're focusing on. Are we focusing on lack or abundance? Are we focusing on, I can't do this all on my own. I have to, the only reason why this is going to happen is because of me or surrender.
Mm,
That's the word. That's
that's
the
the
word
word.
that came because it was full that. Didn't really care how I looked to the public. I'm sure the people in the gas station were wondering what the heck I was doing, but my life was being transformed in that moment, and it all started with a penny.
Well, doesn't, I mean, not that we're supposed to be talking about the Bible 24/7 on this podcast, but I also don't care because everybody who knows me knows that I love Jesus. But, he tells the story multiple times throughout the Bible in multiple different ways, right? That the people who give the most for them, meaning that the people who have the least, who give everything that they have, are the ones that will see the true, essentially reap the fruit, right? Whereas
Yeah.
the people who have everything, who give what they think is enough, is really not enough. And it's so humbling to think about. Part of what he says is, if I told you right now you had to give everything up and walk away and follow me, like he did to Peter and a lot of these other disciples in the Bible, right? I mean, if you remember watching The Chosen, Nicodemus was given that option to follow him, and he was invited, and he chose not to follow him or to leave with him because he was so worried about leaving his earthly things. And so it's just a big reminder for me listening to you. I think I need to pay more attention to pennies. I see them all the time on my runs, but I don't really actually pay attention to them. And now I'm going to. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my really good friend, Kathy, and strategic partner, business partner, all this, she said, hey, by the way, don't forget Luke 16:10, how you treat the few is how you're going to treat the many. Totally didn't even think about that verse once. So anyway, let
so
that be
good.
what it is.
So good. And if you're listening to this and you haven't read any of those verses and you haven't read or watched The Chosen, you should.
Yeah.
Now, TJ, people who know me know, and I know you know this because we've talked about it a million times. Drivers and levers is my superpower. It's what I'm known for,
Yeah.
what people tune in for. And I want to ask you this question because this just happened. So I posted a video on TikTok. I hate TikTok, but I'm on there because I'm trying to land a TEDx, like many of us are. And I posted this video, and someone said to me, or someone commented on it, they said, Michelle, why should we listen to you? There's so many outbound prospectors out there. Why should we listen to you? And I want to know, why should we listen to you, TJ, right? Like, because what a good question. I feel like it's a really good reflective question, but it's also a really tactical. You're telling me that I need to have more gratitude, or that I need to be this, or that I need to be that, but why should I listen to you? And I want you to answer that, but from a weird perspective shift, from the sense of your job literally now, right, is to get paid to go be on stages. And so you have to source that business. You and I have talked about this offline too, that we have to self-source all of our own business. Yes, we get the emails occasionally from people that will say, hey, can we pay you to come out to do this event? But most of our business we have to source. And I'm just curious what your thought is on, hey, why should we listen to you? And in turn, why are you so passionate about actually booking those things to be able to do them?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great question. And obviously, it's a real honest question that has my answers taken different shapes, truthfully. So this kind of the why me is it's unique to everybody. Like, I don't have a specific answer of I'm better than someone else. My experience, this, like, that's not what people are looking for. If I say I have 20 plus years of healthcare leadership experience and I've lived it and I've done it, they're like, okay, right? Um, But what I will say is the the heart of which the message that we share is seen always and felt always. And I'm going to I'm going to own this, not saying that it's in comparison to, but when it comes to working with people, if they care as much about your outcome as theirs, that's probably somebody in alignment, not somebody trying to get you to buy their program so that they can buy a boat. There's a difference, right? So when somebody says, why should I listen to you? And it really is a matter of because I'm going to listen to you. When I talk about connection, it's because I'm going to listen to you and what you actually want, not just what worked for me, but what actually do you want? Because I think a lot of times people buy something, they buy a program, and here's the thing, and this is like a little not perfect for us in the way that I'm going to say this. We don't, I have to be careful that I don't create a dependence on me or the program because that creates a lack in the people that I care about, which means the people that are going to buy what we offer. I want it to be an empowerment tool, not a deficit that they need to pay for to close the gap. However, if it's knowledge, if it's a tool, drivers and levers, if it's a book, right? Black line, if there's things that we can provide that help people start living in a way that they start achieving what they want,
Hmm.
that is why, right? That's the why. And like there are a lot of people. There are. And like it's a good thing. There's enough of us. There's enough of the people who have the problem that need different ways to find solutions. But I'll tell you, I've worked with a lot of different coaches. I've paid them a lot of money. I've bought programs, tools, all the things. But the thing that I missed, the thing that I didn't get was the human connection. Was the how is it actually going for you? Not just copy paste, plugging in some thing that doesn't align with who you are and what you are and all of that. And, when it comes to when we're talking about prospecting and the actual tactical piece of this, I look for people who care about what I care about. And so when it comes to stages, I'm not looking for the biggest name and the biggest stage always, right? I'm looking for a company that is, so like I have a report and things that I run all the time around what companies are going through a lot of change right now. And not because they need my message because they're going through change. The reason why I prospect, right, which means who could benefit from hearing my message, AKA also pay us to do what we do, but who could benefit from hearing the message? I think about the team because I've been there. I
Mm.
think about the team that's going through the change right now. And what do they need? They need a message that I can share with them. They need a lot of different things, right? There's a lot of great speakers. There's people that would benefit from having you on their TEDx stage, on their bigger stage, probably multiple times because of all the depth of knowledge you have and all the wisdom that you have to share. And, but when it comes to who, it's a matter of what are they going through? Not just what service, like not what industry are they in, but like on a human level, what are they going through? How can I relate to that? And then how can I speak to them in a way that empowers them and inspires them that it can be different? And then with some specific things, because we all need something to do and not just an inspiring message, we can go to YouTube or Google for that.
Mm.
right? That and so in the age of information, we're all seeking wisdom. Wisdom is from taking action. You've taken action. I've taken action. I've used these things, but I've also used a lot of other things that didn't work for me. So if somebody reaches out to you and this didn't work for me, you already have multiple other ways you can help them find another way to get what they want.
Mm.
Same thing with me. If somebody hires me to help them with something and they're like, I can't connect deeper to my spouse, or I can't connect deeper to myself or to my purpose, and I can't figure out gratitude. I've tried and failed so many times in all those different things that I can actually help you in multiple ways. I'm just sharing one of the many ways that I know how to help people get what they want.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is lived experience. That's what I'm
For
hearing
sure.
you say,
For
right?
sure.
And when I recorded my rebuttal to this comment, my video was, which is crazy. This is how we know God was supposed, that we were supposed to record this today. That's how I know. Because your answer was my answer in this video, and you didn't watch that video. I assume you have never seen my TikTok, so you had
No.
no idea that I answered this question in a video. But what I said to in reply to it was, why do I believe people should listen to me? Number one, first and foremost, I have lived the pain of not doing it, right? So if I don't do what I'm saying you should go do, then how can I sell anything? I can't. It's like the quintessential sales saying, right? Of if you're going to go sell a vacuum but you don't use the vacuum, you're going to be a terrible vacuum salesman because you don't actually understand the value of the product. I think what we're describing is even one step further than that, right? Like we have literally experienced and lived in our bones the pain of
Mm.
not doing the things that we're telling you to do. Um, and I think messages, two people could say the exact same thing, but one person's going to say it in a way that's going to land for a room that may not land for other people, but it's going to land for one, right? Hopefully, right? Can we impact one? And there's so much more we could talk about here, and we're running out of time, but there's so much that we could dig in. And I know I'm about to be on your podcast too, so maybe it'll just be a continuation part two of this. That's what it feels like it needs to be to me. But TJ, I think you and I have leveled on many different, or in many different categories, meaning we're on the same playing field. And you said something to me about how you set up your Claude, I believe you said it was, as far as finding opportunity for yourself. And then also from a messaging standpoint, like you choose very wisely and carefully how you or who you message when you're sending them. And can you just give us some backstory, or even more so, just like let us into the brain of TJ for a moment before you go to actually send a message to someone?
Yeah, so truthfully, the sending of the message is like the last step of my process
Mm.
of getting to know people. And it's not so that I can come across a certain way in a message, right? I think that's where also what you do is thriving. So even on LinkedIn, like I go look to see what conferences are happening, what topics are they talking about, what's going on in these companies that are coming, that are paying money to send people to these things. What is actually happening in their environments that they sent somebody to this conference to go hear the speaker. A lot of these speakers that I know now, and I'm continuing to learn and grow more. What is their
Mm-hmm.
message? And like, what is at the core of what's actually happening within that company? I'm engaging. And again, the intent is to build connection, not connections to get something from them, right? Making people feel seen is actually probably more important than making them feel good about themselves. Like in the sense of, wow, that's a great conference. I'm sure that was really powerful for your attendees. Like, okay, but it's a nurturing process, but it's also not nurturing to get something from them. It's nurturing so that you can build a connection with them. Because when people feel like you're with them and you're connected with them, they'll reach out to you. And that's happened to where I've gone on and I've engaged certain companies and like, wow, like that's tremendous. And I'm not spitting tips in the comments. I'm just saying, like, I really appreciate that message and I really needed that myself today. And like, really kind of pouring in and being with them is probably the best thing I could say instead of just looking at a company and saying, oh, they need to hire me. I'm going to like 3 posts and then make 2 comments on their latest conference. And then I'm going to send my message. sure, there's systems and processes to all of this, but like if you really think about the other person on the other end, we all get messages all the time. We're wondering, is it AI?
Mm-hmm.
First of all. Second
Oh
of
yeah.
all, what do they need and what are they trying to sell me? So we already know what the buyer is often thinking. But if you do it the way that you did it, I mean, look where we are. But if you do it the
Mm-hmm.
way that you teach it and the way that I'm talking about right now is like get to know them as people and get to know them as a company and get to know them as their purpose and like what are they actually doing? You will find that you will build more connections and be able to add more value to people just even in a message.
Yeah, I mean, I could listen to you all day, honestly. Just because there's so much truth to that, and sending the message being the last part really resonates with me because it truly, really is the very last thing. Now, I think one big question I get a lot is people will say, well, like, how much time do you put into this, like, before you send a message? And I have kind of a, in my head, I always tell them I spend less than 10 minutes a day prospecting, but that's the truth. I really do spend less than 10 minutes a day sending the messages, but I've spent thousands and thousands of hours over the course of my life understanding how to see and almost like making the synapse go from this to that equals that, right? A plus B equals C. And don't make me quote calculus because I didn't love that. But the whole process is so simple yet
Mm.
so complex when you actually really break it all down. But the truth is, you said it. You open LinkedIn, you open Facebook, you open Instagram. I'm connected to this person who's connected to this person. I don't know that person, but I have a great relationship with this person. How do I build that bridge? And then do you take the 5 seconds, like I did for you, to actually know who you're messaging? Right. And I didn't know who you were from I have never spoken to you. I wasn't on Zoom with you and I didn't have your life story in front of me, but I had enough wherewithal to go spend some time on your social to figure out like, is this someone who is in alignment with me? Now, could we do business together? Probably. Right. But I didn't go into that conversation thinking or sending that message thinking that that was the ultimate outcome. Because if I had, then I think that's where most people would say, oh, that's slimy, sleazy car salesman. That was written by AI. That was this person just trying to make me buy something, or they're just trying to get in front of my audience to make themselves money, which are those things byproducts? Yes, right? Like when I earn a webinar to speak in front of a room, when you speak in front of a room as a keynote speaker, it would be wrong of us to say that we're not in that room in hope that somebody wants to also coach with us or work with us, but we don't do it for that, right? And we certainly don't lead for that. And I think you're just such a good example of the difference between how we approach a conversation from a what is in it for me versus what's really actually in it for them. Because you study the teams, you study the people. Are they going through change? You're so selflessly looking at it because you're like, this person is in pain, this company's in pain, this team is in pain. I also have felt pain. Now, the tactical aspect is I'm going to go send them an email and say, hey, I saw that you guys are going through this and I'd like to come put my name in the hat to be a speaker for your event. I mean, it's really that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll tell you that a lot of times people say they hate messaging, of which I don't know if you ever hear this. They feel icky and they don't like messaging. If Here's what I would suggest. If you feel that, you haven't done enough homework.
Yeah. And you're not
You
doing it
haven't
right.
you haven't built the relationship yet.
Yeah.
But like sending a message to a stranger, it is clunky. Sending a message to somebody that shares common values, not clunky.
Nope. And there's a 4-part framework to that, guys. I might know somebody that knows it. Um,
Yeah.
in all seriousness. But TJ, I am honored to have had this time with you. I'm actually upset that it's over because I wish we could keep going. But for sake of time, I
Yeah.
do really want you to be able to give our audience the opportunities just to know like what's coming up next for you. When's the book coming out? What kind of speaking engagements are you currently booking? And just tell us, how do we get dialed into TJ?
Yeah, so the easiest way to learn more about me and see more about me is tjsweet.com. Luckily, it's a kind of a unique name, so not hard to find. Obviously, it's at the TJ Sweet on all socials. So parking lot pennies, I'm pushing really, really hard for December of 26 to get it done. It's been on my heart to do that. So I'm pushing really hard on that. Connecting with insurance companies, healthcare companies, insurance firms, finance. Those are kind of my main groups that have been reaching out. And truthfully, the main message has been change, uncertainty, and disconnection from
Mm.
purpose, from each other, from teams working remotely, teams working in person. So that's really who I work with a lot right now is infusing, like you said earlier, what may seem simple, but it's certainly not easy to do. And but yeah, so I have a coaching framework as well that I'm working hard. I've been spending multiple hours a day on around reconnecting with yourself so that you can learn and understand how to connect other people, connect with other people, but also to your purpose, to your body, to your community, to your mind, all these different ways that we've naturally fallen out of connection. And but we are resilient as people, and we have the ability to connect, and that's what I'm super passionate about because I've seen the impact in my own life. I've seen the impact in communities, in the relationships of people that I get to know and love. And that's what I want to be able to share in hopes that, like you said, one person lives a life that they feel more excited about and more grateful for and more purpose driven. Because when we all show up for each other, we all win.
So good. It's so good. TJ, thank you for your time. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here with me. If you guys loved this episode, which how could you not? Please connect with TJ, send him a message on social, let him know that you heard him here on this episode. It is my favorite thing when I get messages from my guests because somebody messaged them. Because to me, that's where the impact is somebody listening to us driving to work, somebody stuck in traffic driving to go wherever they're going, listening to TJ and I talk about how we're both corporate dropouts because it just wasn't our path. And, there's so much good there. And I love hearing these stories because it keeps us going, right? It gets us to do one more episode and do one more connection that creates one more ounce of change for somebody. So I'm just honored. Thank you for being a part of it. If you love this episode, share it, send it to somebody, let us know that you did. And until next time, guys, we'll see you in another episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast.